We are about to see the most important game played in the history of Ole Miss baseball. I will explain why right after this.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. Don't forget about Omaha Live tonight. Right after the game, we will have all of our personalities breaking down exactly what happened. Should be really good. If Saturday was any indication of what went on, it was pretty great. Anyway, my Twitter handle is at @TheStephenWillis. Follow that for a little bit of commentary, what's going on. And also, I'll be doing quick 30, 45-second videos from time to time about football and about other things as well. That'll be on my Twitter handle and sometimes on our Facebook group. So pay attention to that. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for updates whenever we put a new video up, and of course, upvote the video itself. We would much appreciate it. Thank you. And also, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So like I said, my name is Stephen Willis. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. We're going to talk about Ahmad Brown's commitment to the football team, I think maybe in segment 2, but I think we're going to start right here because Ole Miss Baseball is about to play the most important baseball game in the history of the Ole Miss Baseball program. It just is. No game that Ole Miss has ever played means as much as this one does because Ole Miss doesn't generally find itself in a position to where this second game matters as much as it does. Ole Miss won the game one for the first time since 1956, and it had a completely different format back then. I probably even couldn't tell you what it was, but they won that game back then. Fast forward 70 years, 65 years, something like that, Ole Miss wins game one again. They beat Auburn 5-1. If you want to check out our replay of Omaha Live, it's in the podcast feed, and it's on the YouTube channel. We're going to do the same thing tomorrow night with the winner's bracket game against Arkansas. Arkansas is a huge game. It's not often that Ole Miss has even played itself into the position to where this game means as much as it does. But Ole Miss did. This team did. This team that people built a narrative about how a coaching change needed to happen. I actually saw on our Twitter timeline somebody hoping that we lose to Vanderbilt so Mike Bianco would be fired. The 2 months in the middle of the season where all of this built up to almost a crescendo between media carrying water for narratives and the fact that there are some boosters that ran with it. So you have people doing all that, and they all decided that now we need to make a change. Well, it's over now. It's all over. And do not complain about anybody bringing up the fact that you campaigned in the middle of the baseball season for a change to happen. Do not complain about that. This is the bed you made. Sleep in it. Do not complain that people are being mean or that they're beating a dead horse. You did this. This is a consequence of your actions because you had the emotional immaturity to shoot your mouth off pretty consistently about this before the season even ended. It was like a preemptive. It was the equivalent of the guy that posts in the first quarter when the visiting team scores a touchdown and you're like, fire the coaches, and you end up winning 40-14. That was the equivalent of what happened here. I don't necessarily care what somebody's opinion might be about the LSU situation last year. It's irrelevant to me. It's like somebody working at Walmart and kind of, even if he was interested in the job, casting an eye at Target. Everybody can do that. Everybody Nobody can do that. But somehow, if you coach college football with these people that, for lack of a better word, want to collect coaches and players, and you show a little bit of disloyalty to the program to go find something that might suit you better, might not. I don't know that this happened, but they flip a switch. And at that point, they just want to get rid of you. The same thing happened with David Cutcliffe in 2004. Ole Miss went 4-7, gave them a reason to get rid of him, and it was all because in 2002 he flirted with Kentucky. It's absolutely the case. But my point is, if you spent 2 months being vocal about changing the baseball coach, accept the consequences, lay in the bed, because honestly, you deserve it. But as far as this baseball team now goes, you should be thrilled. You should be absolutely over the moon. Like I said, this doesn't happen very often. And if Ole Miss wins against Arkansas tonight and gets to the equivalent of what would be a regional final, I understand is the two groups, but it's essentially the final of that half of the bracket, would be the equivalent of a Final Four ranking. How about that? If Ole Miss wins, it's the equivalent of a Final Four. It's the biggest win in the biggest game in Ole Miss baseball history. Arkansas has played in a College World Series final. They famously dropped a ball on foul ground that would have won. They would have ended up winning the game, and Oregon State kind of took care of them. It's not the effect there. It's a big one for us. Now, Hunter Elliot on the hill tonight is absolutely huge for Ole Miss, because if you've heard my interviews over the last week or so, I've unabashedly referred to Hunter Elliot as Ole Miss's actual ace. I think he has the best stuff. I mean, Dylan DeLucia is absolutely phenomenal. Great pitcher. And I think Dylan DeLucia and Hunter Elliot combined to be the most dominant pair in the SEC right now. And Hunter getting the ball against Arkansas, as good as they are offensively, I feel pretty good about it. I feel really good about it. As long as Hunter Elliott fills up the strike zone. The red flag that you need to look for is if he's putting people on base. I hate walks. Can't stand it. You'll see on my Twitter timeline, I cannot stand walks. I will tweet throw strikes probably 5 different ways tonight. And it's just because I can't stand whenever you nibble and miss. So Hunter Elliott has unbelievable stuff, and I think his changeup is fairly next level. His fastball is heavy, and his curveball looks like it's coming in from behind people. So it's an effective mix right now. So I think that he is positioned to have a good performance against Arkansas. Now, whether or not our offense can carry the day, I don't know. I don't think Arkansas has that second pitcher. They have some good ones. Now, I'm not saying they do not. They have some good pitchers, and their bullpen is really, really good. But I think we have a situation like if Ole Miss was starting Derek Diamond. Whoever their starter is going to throw about 3 innings, and then they're going to say, hey, it's time to Johnny Holstaff this. And it's up to the bullpen. And hopefully they do enough on their end of to put it away. But if not, I think Ole Miss has a solid chance to do this. Now, their fireballer's name is, I think, Jackson Wiggins. He throws the ball really hard. He is somebody that, against Ole Miss last year, Kevin Graham really lit up. All of a sudden, they ate his fastballs alive. He did not have a good performance in Oxford. So, it all depends. It could be a situation. Joseph Gonzalez, the pitcher from Auburn, his slider was just a little bit late starting, and that slider was what they ate up in the first inning. Tim Elko, Kevin Graham, Kemp Alderman. And, one pitch kind of late to the game, and Ole Miss can they can really punish you. You actually have to have a mix against Ole Miss or you're going to be in trouble. This offensive lineup is really, really good. There's going to be some people that look at the game and think about, Ole Miss, we need to do this. They're a 3 seed. They were the last team in the tournament. But that isn't the whole story. And you know what? We're going to keep talking about this after we come back from break because instead of splitting it up with the Ahmad Brown story, we will go back to back. But right now, I do want to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs and information. Find all your sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's playoffs and Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. So, BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcast, and news this season. That's absolutely the case. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn about the trends and action. Ole Miss, a 21.5-point favorite over Troy. And, of course, they're predicted to win 7.5 games in the regular season. If you have a problem with that high or low, you can do something about it at betonline.net. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, we have an important favor to ask you. We've put together a survey so we can learn more about listeners like you. Make your favorite Locked On podcast even better. This is your opportunity to tell us what you like and what you don't like about Locked On Podcasts. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey right now to get started. It won't take very long, and everybody that completes a survey will qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. To take our audience survey, go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Thanks for your help. All right. So in the first segment, we talked about how this is going to be the biggest game in the history of Ole Miss baseball. It just is. There's going to be probably pressure they put in. How they handle it going into this game is going to be the story of this game. It's going to be imperative that people like Justin Bench, Tim Elko, and Kevin Graham play a key role in leadership because they're all thinking about this right now. They're like, this could be a big seminal moment for us. How will it look? And it's honestly a good question because you never know how you're going to react until you're in that situation. You might think you're going to react a certain way in a certain situation, but until that situation actually happens, you don't know how you're going to react. And Ole Miss is kind of interesting to see how they go. Kevin Graham went, I think, 3 for 5 in the first game with a home run and a double and a single, triple away from the cycle. You noticed that the ball just died in center field to the point where the center fielder played up. So we'll see how it looks like, but it is not traveling at all to center field. And if you get it out, it's basically down the lines or nothing. Like we said, this is a park that is a beneficial park for Hunter Elliot and Dylan DeLucia. Last night, or Saturday night, Dylan DeLucia proved why that was true. His only hits were little Texas leaguers, little duck snorts into the outfield, really. And Ole Miss is playing defense. They are really playing defense. And I think that is because now everybody talks about Ole Miss is the hottest team in the country. What does that really mean? Well, I will tell you what that means. And in the comment section below, tell me what it means. Why do they call Ole Miss the hottest team in the country? And I think that is confidence. Tennessee actually just broke Ole Miss's confidence. Just absolutely destroyed it. Ole Miss took 2 of 3 from Auburn on the road. Took 2 of 3 from Kentucky on the road. I think they dropped 2 of 3 in the game series. Or got swept maybe. I don't know, at home. I think they got swept. And after the Tennessee game, in Tennessee series, the confidence level of this team was terrible. There was no Kevin Graham. They hadn't figured out their pitching situation. It had gotten to the point where players that were playing in the field, it was affecting them because they knew that if they could get 6 runs, which they can do, as we talked about this many times, if they score 6 runs, well, they might need to score 9 to get the win. And there's games that are being dropped because it wasn't pitched well. Well, now, you score 6 runs, you think you're going to win the game. And not only win the game, you might win the game by 4 or 5 runs. Like just what happened against Auburn. So the confidence level of the team lifted. All the field players jumped up. So they started relaxing in the box. They started fielding the ball better. You can tell now that they were absolutely pressing during the middle part of the season. And it was all because they were trying to hit 5-run home runs. They were trying to field the ball and get throw the ball to first and get 3 outs. They were trying to do too much. And because of that, mistakes were made. They might not be in the right place. All of a sudden they get beat. I think several teams walked off Ole Miss this year. And that's not necessarily anybody's fault, except for confidence. Because whenever I talk about how Tennessee broke Ole Miss, that's what I'm talking about, is the confidence of this team. Absolutely got broke down after the Tennessee game. Now, let's fast forward that to the Arkansas series up in Fayetteville. That's a series that Ole Miss could have swept. They played well. Arkansas made a couple of plays late and ended up taking the series 2 out of 3. But that was the series that kind of woke Ole Miss up. That's the one that got them out of their confidence funk, and I think that's because of how good Arkansas was last year. The last time they saw Arkansas, they were a generational type team. This year, they're not that, but that recognition allowed Ole Miss to pull themselves out of a funk. So they take 1 out of 3 against Arkansas. They sweep Missouri. They beat Southern Miss and Pete Taylor. They sweep LSU. They cancel the game against Arkansas State, which I am not a fan of under any circumstances. And they took 1 out of 3 from Texas A&M, which it turns out that 1 out of 3 was exactly what they needed. They dropped a pitcher's duel in Hoover to Vanderbilt, and since then they have not lost. They are somewhere like 47-11 as far as the total score of the NCAA tournament at this point. So this is a very hot, confident team. They're going to go into the Arkansas game expecting to win it. Arkansas is going to go into the Ole Miss game expecting to win it. And whenever that happens, truly special games can happen. You got 2 teams that are absolutely sure they're going to win the game. You have to take their will. It's going to be a big game for Hunter Elliot and what he throws. And if he can hold their numbers down, they scored 17 runs in game 2. And if we all think about baseball, when you score 17 runs in a baseball game, you're probably going to score 3 in the next one. Everybody says save some runs into the end. It doesn't work that way. I get that. But it always seems to seemingly work out that way. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Hunter Elliot is going to be really good. I'm almost sure of that. And it'll be fun seeing that long-haired number 26 up on the mound, because I think other teams, when they see that, they have a psychological thing with Doug Nikhazy as well. They see that 26 long hair, and they automatically drop their own confidence. They become a lesser player because of how good he is. And Hunter Elliot, I think, is benefiting from that as well. It's pretty cool. And when we come back, we are going to talk football recruiting. And also, I want to let you know that tonight's show will be tomorrow's Locked On podcast. We're going to live stream it. It's just leave it up. There's not going to be a show on Tuesday morning. It's going to just have to be this post-game show tonight that we talk about this game. So that'll be the show tomorrow. And then we'll get back on Wednesday to a normal type show situation. And, depending on when Ole Miss plays again, we might have a situation where we have to stay up and do another show, and that'll be the show the next day. So we'll see how it goes, but we're not going to be able to have time to do a 30-minute show after a 45-minute show, because it would be kind of redundant to begin with. So we're going to hit the post-game show, talk about exactly what happened, and let that go and be the Locked On podcast for tomorrow. We will actually put that in the full episodes thing on the YouTube page. And, of course, it will be on the streams immediately anyway as well. It's that time of year that Locked On only requires 3 shows a week from us anyway. I'm trying to give y'all 5+ anyway. So you just bear with me on this one. I'm still going, believe it or not, above and beyond. So it should be a lot of fun tonight. I'm looking forward to it, but it is the biggest game in Ole Miss baseball history. It's absolutely huge. After this, we'll talk about Ahmad Brown and his recruiting saga. Stick around. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including iTunes. So do us a favor. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes. You can say whatever you want to say. Steve, you can say Steve doesn't know what he's talking about, what's going on. You can say whatever you want to say. Just leave us a 5-star review so others can find this show. It'll help the algorithm and kind of push us towards the front of the line from the iTunes police. So that's the way kind of social media works. It's also the reason our titles are named the way they are. They are named that way for YouTube's algorithm. And it actually really, really helps, believe it or not. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Anyway, Ahmad Brown committed to Ole Miss a couple of days ago, and he's not really, it was kind of a surprise commitment. But the way it's set up, in the recruit prediction machine, which I think is silly, it's an algorithm, and it's basically can be self-feeding, so you can direct people where they want to go. They have Clemson as an 86.5% chance to land him, and Ole Miss only a 2.7. Well, he committed to Ole Miss, so this RPM is obviously very wrong. On 3, 4-star player, and he's an on 3 consensus 4-star player, Ahmad Brown. He is an athlete out of Chris County, Georgia. That's Cordele, Georgia. He's 6'1", 195. It seems like a good player. Now, I think he was going to play safety at Ole Miss. Ole Miss has a type. If you look at these videos, they start to all look alike. They have a type for those that are going to play those 4 safety positions. You need to be able to play very good in the box. You need to be a physical player. You also need to cover a little bit, and it all needs to be interchangeable. So you can't just judge based off of where somebody's lined up what type of defense they're running. So he'll do a good job at that. The on-3 consensus is a 375 national player. Just the on-3 is 297. On Rivals in 24/7, just for full disclosure, is 3-star. But on Rivals, Nick Broker was the lowest possible 3-star as well. ESPN does not have a ranking on him yet. But he is a good player. He's a good pickup, and you'll see that these high school players that they are getting they tend to be on the defense. They like I said, they have a type. They know how to identify, and specifically, they can get them. It's not a situation where NIL is making it cost prohibitive to go after Ahmad Brown. Ahmad Brown is an elite player. He's good. Anybody that signs with Ole Miss is an elite player and probably the best player in his town. But it's not Nico Iamaleava and his $8 million price tag. Because of that, it's going to look a little bit differently. That's all I'm saying. Just understand, Ole Miss can compete in the high school recruiting market up to about 11 players. After that, it's going to have to be transfer portal. Transfer portal is a little bit cheaper, and you can do some damage in it, as you can tell this year with Zach Evans, Jackson Dart, Michael Trigg, Malik Heath, Jordan Watkins, all of these players. Jalen Williams, sorry, the kid from Central Florida. I get names confused from time to time. So that is how this roster is being built. That is the important part of this roster. And I think could be a good situation. Now, we're going to do media days in about 3 weeks away. It's absolutely crazy. Thank you, Ole Miss Baseball, for this Omaha run, because it takes the dog days of summer out of the equation, and there's something we can talk about. So that's very good. Anyway, in the comment section below, honestly, just tell me what you're feeling about Omaha, really, and this baseball team moving on and going further than they ever have. And if they can beat Arkansas tonight, they will officially be in the catbird seat for the National Championship Series. It's pretty cool. I hate to say it, it's pretty cool. But everybody have fun. Also, I think the jello shot thing, the lower the number on that board is actually the person that's winning the competition, not the one that's putting Rocco's kids through college. That's just my opinion. There's a lot of people that are going to black out and not remember this Omaha trip after spending $4,000, all because they wanted to win a jello shot contest. Just my opinion. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen today. Now make your second listen Locked On NBA Big Board. Rafael Barlow, Richard Strayman, Sam Ferris, and Leif Thulin give fans an in-depth look at the biggest prospect, the latest player rankings, and, of course, big boards. Follow the Locked On NBA Big Board every day on the Audacity app. I don't know if that's Audacity or Odyssey. Maybe it's Odyssey app on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Audacy, that app. Search them, and you'll be able to find the Locked On NBA Big Board. Anyway, this has been the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, tonight, Omaha Live with Derek Vandegrift, Karen McCutcheon, and Tom Vanderford. We'll talk about the Ole Miss-Arkansas game. I don't have anybody from Arkansas like we did last week with Zach Blackerby yet, but we'll see if one matriculates tomorrow as well. If somebody pops in and is willing to do it, willing to stay up at 10:30 at night, I will absolutely put them on the air. But until then, hotty toddy.